Hello, a very good afternoon and welcome to the News International Edition on this 7th day of March 2023. We're coming to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I'm Emma Akwero. Let's start our news today from France, where fuel deliveries and public transport have been disrupted as unions protest against a pensions reform that would push back the retirement age for millions of people. Unions have vowed to bring the country to a standstill with strikes over the proposed charges, which include raising the minimum retirement age to 64 from 62 and increasing the number of years people have to make contributions for a full pension.
President Emmanuel Macron put the pensions plan at the center of his re-election campaign last year, and his cabinet says the changes are essential to prevent the system from falling into deficit in the coming years. But they face fierce resistance from both parliament and the street, with almost 2 in 3 people across the country supporting protests against it, according to a poll by the Ilebe survey group published on Monday.
La République peut-il espérer qu'il lui suffise d'attendre?
Former left-wing presidential candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon said the president would be wrong to count on resistance wearing out, on people getting exhausted. The French people deserve better. The hardline CGT union said fuel deliveries from refineries across France had been blocked starting today morning, which could see petrol stations running short if the protests continue. Unions have warned of rolling strikes on public transport that could paralyze parts of the country for weeks on end. Police expect 1.1 million to 1.4 million people to hit the streets in more than 260 locations nationwide. The upper limit of the range would mean stronger opposition than during the 5 previous days of rallies that have taken place since mid-January. On the union side, Frederic Swilou, the leader of hard left union Force Ouvrière, said he expected more than 2 million people to march. The biggest day of demonstration so far brought 1.27 million people to the street on January 31st, according to officials. In the lead up to today's events, unions had promised to bring the country to a standstill. Only 1 in 5 regional and high-speed trains were expected to run, while a leading trade unionist representing refinery workers has vowed to bring the French economy to its knees. School teachers are also to stage walkouts. The government has argued that the changes are crucial to keep France's pension system from falling into deep deficit in the coming years.
And from Iran, more than 5,000 school children have been affected by a spate of poisonings that has targeted mainly female pupils from late last November. The mystery poisonings have gripped Iran, triggering a wave of anger and demands for action from the authorities.
The poisonings have also sparked international concern and Western calls for an independent investigation, particularly as the first cases were reported soon after the start of nationwide protests sparked by the death of Iranian Kurd Mahsa Amini following her arrest for allegedly breaching Iran's strict dress code for women. Scores of schools have been hit, with pupils suffering symptoms ranging from shortness of breath to nausea and vertigo after reporting unpleasant odors on school premises. Some have been treated in hospital. 25 provinces and approximately 230 schools have been affected, and more than 5,000 schoolgirls and boys poisoned. Mohammed Hassan Asafari, a member of the Parliamentary Fact-Finding Committee, said various tests are being carried out to identify the type and cause of the poisonings. So far, no specific information has been obtained regarding the type of poison used. Calling the poisonings an unforgivable crime, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei gave orders on Monday for the perpetrators to be tracked down without mercy.
دست‌هایی در کار باشه و افرادی
We want severe punishment
در این
against the
زمینه دخالت
perpetrators
داشته
of the
باشن. این
poisonings of
جنایت
schoolgirls
بزرگ
that has
و
rocked the
غیر قابل
country for more than
اغماضی
3
است.
months.
تو این کار دست دارن که
Perpetrators of
لابد
this
دست
act
دارن
must be
کسانی
condemned
بباشن.
to serve severe punishments,
به
and there
نحوی
will be no
حتما
amnesty for them.
کسانی
I
دست
warn
دارن.
everyone who is involved that
بایستی
we will catch
دستگاه
them. President Ibrahim Raisi already asked the Interior Ministry last week with providing continuous updates on the investigation. The ministry has announced no arrests so far, even as new cases continue to be reported.
And from the Democratic Republic of Congo, M23 rebels today clashed with soldiers on 2 fronts in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, despite a regional ceasefire deal due to take effect. We have more.
According to aid workers, fighting had erupted on Monday in North Kivu province, where the M23 has captured swaths of territory since re-emerging from dormancy in late 2021. Today morning, rebels and troops were still clashing despite a ceasefire brokered by Angola recently that was due to start at noon. Lieutenant Colonel Nguilamwe Ndiche, the army spokesperson in North Kivu, said on late Monday the M23 and their sponsors from Rwanda Defense Force had attacked a recently deployed Burundian contingent of East African Regional Military Force. The DRC accuses Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, who have displaced over 500,000 people and are edging closer to the city of Goma, a trade hub. Only in December last year, the M23 rebels met soldiers from a regional military force to hand over a strategic frontline position near the major eastern city of Goma. The Tutsi-led group had conquered swaths of territory in North Kivu province. The seven-nation East African community decided to create a military force to stabilize eastern DRC last year, with the first troops arriving in Goma in November.
Now, China has lashed out at the United States, with the foreign minister accusing Washington of stoking tensions between the two powers and warning of conflict and confrontation. The world's biggest economies have clashed in recent years over trade, human rights and other issues, but relations further soured late last month when the United States shot down a Chinese balloon it said was being used for surveillance, a claim strenuously denied by Beijing.
Beijing's new foreign minister Qin Gang told a press conference on the sidelines of the ongoing National People's Congress there would be catastrophic consequences if the United States carried out its current direction. If the United States does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing, and there will be surely conflict and confrontation. Who will bear the catastrophic consequences? The foreign minister called American competition with China a reckless gamble, with the stakes being the fundamental interests of two peoples and even the future of humanity. Qin's comments came after President Xi Jinping slammed the United States for leading a containment, encirclement and suppression of China, while urging his country's private sector to boost innovation and become more self-reliant. China's technology ambitions have been hit with a raft of restrictions by the United States and its Western allies, and Beijing has doubled down on the need to shift away from imports for sectors perceived as vital to national security, such as semiconductors and artificial intelligence. Washington has in recent months tightened sanctions on China's chip makers, citing national security concerns and the risk of the technology being used by China's military. Xi, who will be granted a third consecutive presidential term in the coming days at the highly choreographed NPC, said the past 5 years had been riddled with a new set of hurdles that threaten to weigh down China's economic rise. Xi also vowed to bolster China's manufacturing capacity and said the country should be able to fend for itself. In a wide-ranging press conference, former U.S. Ambassador Keane also dismissed warnings from Western countries that China may supply arms to Russia for its war in Ukraine, saying it would not accept blame-shifting, sanctions, suppression and threat targeting Beijing. China last month released a position paper outlining its stance on the Ukraine conflict, portraying itself as a neutral party and urging the two sides to enter peace negotiations. China is neither a creator of the crisis nor a party to it, and it has not provided weapons to any party. Peace talks should start as soon as possible. Beijing's relationship with Moscow is not a threat to any country in the world. Do not underestimate the strong determination, firm will and powerful ability of the Chinese government and the Chinese people to defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And finally, from Syria, medics have launched the first cholera vaccination campaign in the rebel-held northwest since a deadly outbreak began last year, amid its increased fears of a contagion after last month's devastating earthquake. Health workers were going door to door to inculcate people in homes and displacement camps in the Idlib region, the war-torn country's last main rebel bastion. And that's all the international news we had for you this afternoon. Thank you for watching and do have yourself a fantastic afternoon.
Often friends go with the wedding party during weddings, but at